In the quiet corners of Washington state, mornings often begin with mist drifting across empty roads and sunlight touching rooftops, still heavy with sleep. But some mornings carry something darker beneath the calm. Have you ever wondered how a person could disappear completely within only a few moments, leaving behind questions that never stop haunting everyone involved forever afterward? In May of 2016, 19-year-old Logan Schiendelman vanished under deeply bizarre circumstances that investigators still cannot fully explain today. His disappearance became one of Washington state's most haunting mysteries. A crashed vehicle, strange witnesses, conflicting reports, and endless uncertainty created a case that continues disturbing everyone who studies it carefully. What made Logan's disappearance especially unsettling was how ordinary his life seemed before everything changed. There were no obvious enemies, no known criminal connections, and no clear warning signs suggesting danger nearby. Yet within only hours, Logan appeared to vanish completely. Was he hiding painful secrets, or did somebody dangerous suddenly enter his life? As investigators looked deeper into Logan's final days, the mystery only became stranger and more disturbing. Witnesses reported unidentified men standing near his vehicle shortly before the crash. Some believed Logan seemed frightened and emotionally overwhelmed beforehand. Every clue created more confusion, leaving the truth hidden somewhere beneath silence, fear, and unanswered questions forever. Before we continue deeper into this disturbing mystery, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Criminal Mindcast. Every story we explore is built from real pain, real families, and unanswered questions that continue haunting lives long after media attention fades. Tonight's case may leave you questioning reality itself afterward. Tumwater, Washington did not seem like the kind of community where terrifying mysteries could unfold. Evergreen forests surrounded quiet neighborhoods, while familiar faces greeted one another daily in schools and grocery stores. Friday nights centered around football games, cheering families, and bright stadium lights. Serious violence felt impossibly distant from ordinary life there. During the spring of 2016, life across Tumwater followed its usual peaceful rhythm. Cars rolled slowly through damp streets while workers stopped for coffee before driving toward Olympia. Birds echoed through towering trees overhead. Nothing about that calm atmosphere suggested one family was approaching a nightmare that would forever destroy their sense of certainty afterward. On the morning Logan disappeared, nothing seemed unusual inside the family home. Ordinary conversations drifted through the kitchen, while sunlight entered quietly through nearby windows. Logan prepared to leave, just like any other day. Only later would relatives realize those peaceful moments became some of the final normal memories they would ever share with him. What makes stories like Logan's especially disturbing is how suddenly ordinary life can collapse into permanent uncertainty. No warning signs appeared outside the house that morning. No screams interrupted the neighborhood. Everything looked calm and familiar. Yet sometimes disaster hides perfectly behind routine, waiting silently until lives change forever without explanation or understanding. Friends remembered Logan Schiendelman as athletic, intelligent, and easy to like. Years of football gave him a strong physical presence, while his personality remained thoughtful and respectful around classmates and teachers. At Tumwater High School, Logan blended naturally into student life. Few people around him imagined his future would eventually become surrounded by mystery and unanswered questions. Beneath Logan's outwardly normal personality, however, existed emotional struggles connected to his childhood and identity. He was primarily raised by his grandmother after his mother temporarily left for art school. Logan's Saudi Arabian father remained mostly absent from his life, leaving him privately wrestling with belonging, identity, and uncertainty about where he truly fit socially. After graduating high school, Logan attended Washington State University briefly before returning home uncertain about his future. Friends gradually noticed changes in his behavior afterward. The energetic athlete they remembered became quieter and emotionally distant. Spending more time alone while carrying thoughts and worries he rarely explained openly to anyone. Family members later admitted they believed Logan was emotionally struggling during the months before he disappeared. Some felt he seemed isolated and directionless while entering adulthood. Others suspected anxiety connected to identity and pressure. Yet Logan never appeared dangerous, only like a young man silently trying to understand himself emotionally. Perhaps that is why Logan Schiendelman's story still affects so many people years later. He never appeared dangerous, reckless, or deeply involved in crime. Instead, Logan seemed like an ordinary 19-year-old, carrying quiet emotional struggles while trying to understand his future. That painful familiarity continues haunting strangers who hear his story today. At the center of Logan's life stood his grandmother, Jenny Gibo, the woman who raised him through most of childhood. She described Logan as intelligent, caring, and respectful, yet noticeably troubled during his final weeks. Looking back afterward, Jenny believed Logan carried emotional pressure silently, possibly trying unsuccessfully to warn others that something felt terribly wrong. Although Logan's mother Hannah remained connected to his life, she had not primarily raised him growing up. Logan also shared a difficult household environment involving his younger half-sister Chloe and her boyfriend Jake. According to several reports, tension sometimes existed inside the home, and Logan allegedly felt increasingly uncomfortable around Jake during certain periods there. One detail later disturbed investigators deeply. Shortly before disappearing, Logan reportedly told relatives he had experienced an epiphany, yet he never explained exactly what he meant. Family members remembered him sounding emotional and unusually intense while discussing it. Whether the statement involved fear, hidden relationships, or personal realization remains one of the case's strangest unanswered mysteries today. Outside the home, everything across the community still appeared peaceful and ordinary. Schools remained busy, traffic flowed steadily along wooded highways, and families continued daily routines unaware tragedy was approaching nearby. Yet beneath that calm surface existed emotional isolation, unfinished conversations, and growing distance between Logan and many longtime friends he slowly stopped contacting regularly afterward. At first, nobody believed Logan's silence meant something terrible had happened. Friends assumed he simply needed space while struggling emotionally like many young adults. But within only days, that silence became frighteningly permanent. Somewhere beyond Washington's forests and endless highways, Logan Schiendelman's disappearance was already transforming into a mystery, still refusing to surrender its secrets today completely. The final confirmed day of Logan Schiendelman's ordinary life began quietly on the morning of May 19, 2016. Inside the family kitchen, Logan spoke briefly with his grandmother before leaving for work. Later, she remembered him appearing unusually tense, distracted, and emotionally burdened, almost like someone hiding thoughts too difficult to explain clearly. During that conversation, Logan made a strange statement that would later haunt investigators and relatives alike. He mentioned experiencing an epiphany, but never explained exactly what he meant. Whether the comment reflected emotional instability, fear, or a dangerous realization remains uncertain. Years after his disappearance shocked communities throughout Washington state, afterward completely. At first, nobody believed anything terrible had happened. Logan was independent, 19 years old, and capable of spending occasional nights away from home without immediately alarming family members. But when evening arrived and Logan still failed to return, concern slowly replaced ordinary assumptions. His grandmother repeatedly attempted contacting him while growing increasingly unsettled by silence. Later that night, Logan's grandmother checked phone records and discovered his cell phone recently pinged somewhere near Olympia, where Logan's mother lived. Relatives assumed he was spending time there unexpectedly. Yet beneath that reassurance, something troubling was already unfolding. Logan's movements throughout the day had become unusually erratic and difficult for investigators to explain. Phone data later revealed Logan drove repeatedly across different sections of Interstate 5 during his final known hours. His route appeared inconsistent and strangely confused, almost as though he was meeting someone secretly or attempting to avoid another person entirely. At several points, Logan reportedly changed driving directions repeatedly without any obvious explanation for investigators afterward. Then came the morning of May 20th, when the mystery became truly disturbing. Drivers traveling along Interstate 5 near Tumwater began calling 911 after witnessing dangerous behavior involving Logan's black Chrysler Sebring. Witnesses described the vehicle drifting unpredictably across highway lanes, leading some people nearby to suspect the driver was injured, intoxicated, or emotionally unstable. One witness later described watching Logan's Chrysler suddenly drift across several highway lanes before crashing violently into a concrete barrier beside Interstate 5. Nearby drivers slowed immediately in shock. But moments later, confusion deepened. Instead of Logan exiting the vehicle, witnesses reported seeing another man awkwardly climbing from the damaged car before fleeing quickly afterward. According to several accounts, the individual leaving Logan's vehicle appeared to be a young white male with light-colored hair, completely unlike Logan physically. Witnesses described him as nervous and strangely determined to escape before authorities arrived. Rather than staying near the crash scene, the unidentified man reportedly sprinted directly into nearby woods beside the interstate. That disturbing image became permanently attached to the investigation. A wrecked car abandoned beside the highway, an unidentified man disappearing into dense trees, and no confirmed sign of Logan Schiendelman anywhere nearby. The situation felt less like an ordinary missing persons case and more like the opening moments of an unsettling psychological thriller investigators struggled to understand. When police searched Logan's Chrysler afterward, the mystery became even stranger. His wallet, identification, cell phone, cash, and personal belongings remained untouched inside the damaged vehicle. Nothing suggested someone planning to disappear voluntarily. Yet Logan himself remained missing completely. It almost appeared as though he had vanished moments before witnesses first observed the vehicle moving erratically across Interstate 5. During the first several days, Logan's family still hoped an innocent explanation existed. Perhaps he was emotionally overwhelmed and hiding temporarily somewhere nearby. Maybe he feared returning home after whatever happened beside the interstate. But as hours became days without contact, fear slowly replaced hope. Logan's silence no longer felt temporary. It felt deeply unnatural and emotionally terrifying afterward. On May 23rd, Logan's grandmother officially reported him missing after realizing nobody had heard from him since the highway incident. During discussions with investigators, the family learned something shocking. Logan's vehicle had already been recovered days earlier after the crash, yet relatives were never informed immediately. By then, valuable investigative time and potentially critical evidence may already have disappeared forever. When family members finally inspected Logan's Chrysler at the impound lot, they noticed how untouched everything inside appeared. His money remained there. His phone remained there. Important belongings Logan reportedly carried constantly were still abandoned inside the vehicle. Relatives later described the realization as emotionally devastating because it contradicted everything they believed about Logan's personality and normal daily behavior completely. Soon after Logan disappeared, investigators launched a large search throughout the forest surrounding Interstate 5. Search dogs tracked through thick vegetation, while helicopters scanned overhead for movement or evidence. Volunteers searched nearby roads and trails carefully, yet despite days of effort, authorities discovered absolutely nothing directly connected to Logan anywhere afterward there. As investigators interviewed witnesses, disturbing new details slowly began emerging. One person claimed they had seen Logan beside his Chrysler with two unidentified men near the roadside earlier that day. According to descriptions, one man had blonde, bowl-cut hair, while the other wore flannel and had shoulder-length hair nearby. Those witness statements completely changed how people viewed the disappearance. If strangers truly stood beside Logan's vehicle shortly before the crash, perhaps he never vanished voluntarily at all. Maybe another person took control of the car before police arrived. Suddenly, theories involving abduction and foul play overshadowed earlier assumptions about emotional instability completely. Meanwhile, investigators made a devastating mistake that still frustrates followers of the case today. Logan's Chrysler was reportedly returned to family members before complete forensic testing occurred. Potential fingerprints, DNA traces, or other evidence may have disappeared permanently afterward. In a case already lacking answers, the possible destruction of evidence became deeply troubling. The strangest developments emerged afterward. Search dogs reportedly struggled to locate Logan's scent near the abandoned vehicle, almost as if he had never been there. One report even described a naked young man wandering nearby woods that night. Then Logan's Facebook account suddenly appeared to check into Olympia Regional Airport unexpectedly afterward online. For a brief moment, Logan's family believed the mystery might finally be ending. A strange Facebook airport check-in suggested he could still be alive somewhere, silently reaching out for help. But investigators soon discovered the painful truth. The activity came from old automated data. Logan's car remained there. His phone remained there. But Logan himself was simply gone forever. After Logan Schiendelman disappeared, investigators immediately focused on the dense forests surrounding Interstate 5 near the crash scene. Search teams spent days moving through thick vegetation, muddy embankments, and isolated trails, searching desperately for evidence. Yet despite exhausting efforts from volunteers and authorities, the woods appeared to swallow every possible trace of Logan afterward. The terrain near the interstate created enormous difficulties from the beginning of the investigation. Towering trees, tangled undergrowth, and hidden pathways made searches extremely dangerous and slow even for trained crews. Constant rain and damp weather conditions complicated operations further. If Logan entered those woods injured or frightened, locating him quickly would have been incredibly difficult. One of the most criticized moments involved Logan's abandoned Chrysler Sebring. Before investigators completed full forensic testing, the vehicle was reportedly released back to family members prematurely. Potential fingerprints, DNA traces, hair fibers, or evidence connected to unknown passengers may have disappeared permanently afterward. For many people following the case, that decision remains deeply frustrating even today. Investigators also examined Logan's digital life carefully, searching for clues suggesting he secretly arranged to meet someone before disappearing. Authorities reviewed cell phone records, social media activity, communication histories, and internet behavior, hoping to uncover hidden relationships or dangerous contacts. Yet despite extensive investigation, police found no definitive explanation for Logan's strange movements. As media coverage expanded throughout Washington state, Logan's disappearance quickly evolved from a local mystery into a national true crime obsession. The bizarre details immediately captured public attention. A wrecked car abandoned beside Interstate 5, unknown men fleeing into nearby woods, a 19-year-old vanishing completely without evidence explaining where he went. Online communities quickly exploded with theories attempting to explain Logan's disappearance. Some believed he encountered dangerous strangers along Interstate 5, while others suspected hidden relationships, trafficking, or criminal involvement. More extreme speculation claimed Logan staged his own disappearance deliberately. Yet despite endless discussion online, almost no concrete answers ever emerged from the growing mystery. For Logan's family, the growing internet attention became emotionally exhausting over time. Every interview, facial expression, and public statement faced scrutiny from strangers studying the case online. Some commenters accused relatives unfairly of hiding information, while others questioned Logan's mental state. Instead of closure, the family became trapped inside suspicion and judgment. As years passed, podcasts, YouTube channels, and independent investigators repeatedly revisited the mystery. Logan's case slowly became one of Washington state's most discussed unsolved disappearances. Every documentary promised hidden clues and new explanations. Yet the deeper people examined the evidence, the more contradictory and fragmented the timeline surrounding Logan's disappearance seemed to become afterward. One person receiving significant public attention was Jake, the boyfriend of Logan's half-sister Chloe. Reports suggested tension existed between Jake and Logan before the disappearance, while Jake allegedly had a history involving aggressive behavior. Those details quickly fueled suspicion online, though investigators never publicly charged him with involvement in Logan's disappearance afterward. Jake reportedly cooperated fully with investigators and completed a polygraph examination during the case. Authorities later stated they discovered no obvious signs of deception in his responses. Although some people privately continued doubting him, police never publicly identified Jake as a primary suspect. Attention instead shifted increasingly toward unidentified men reportedly seen near Logan's vehicle. Those unidentified men became among the most disturbing unanswered elements within the investigation. Witnesses described one blond man wearing a tight tank top and another with shoulder-length hair dressed in flannel. Yet despite sketches, interviews, and years of exposure, investigators never identified them. Were they innocent witnesses, random travelers, or the final people to see Logan alive? Another theory suggested Logan may have secretly arranged to meet someone through the internet shortly before disappearing. Investigators explored whether hidden online conversations could explain his strange driving patterns across Interstate 5. Although no confirmed messages were discovered, many detectives believed Logan's movements suggested intentional interaction rather than random wandering that afternoon. As investigators examined Logan's personal history more closely, they uncovered emotional struggles hidden beneath his outwardly normal life. Logan reportedly experienced identity conflicts connected to growing up biracial within mostly white communities. Family members later admitted he sometimes felt disconnected, isolated, and uncertain about where he truly belonged socially and emotionally. One emotional detail deeply affected Logan's relatives afterward. Family members revealed Logan had secretly visited relatives from his father's side and later admitted how comforting it felt seeing people who physically resembled him. That statement suggested Logan had quietly struggled with questions involving identity, belonging, and self-understanding long before disappearing mysteriously afterward. Friends also described Logan becoming increasingly withdrawn during the months before he vanished. He responded less frequently to messages, isolated himself socially, and often appeared emotionally distracted. Some believe stress and marijuana use may have contributed to paranoia or instability, yet none of those concerns fully explain the bizarre interstate incident surrounding his disappearance. Then, during 2017, investigators released a composite sketch based on witness descriptions of one unidentified man reportedly seen near Logan's Chrysler before the crash. Authorities hoped public recognition would finally produce meaningful leads. The image spread rapidly online and through television broadcasts, yet nobody successfully identified the mysterious individual afterward, despite widespread exposure. Years later, Logan Schiendelman's disappearance remains completely unresolved. No verified sightings emerged, no financial activity appeared, and no body was ever recovered. It almost feels as though Logan briefly stepped into confusion beside Interstate 5 before vanishing entirely. The deeper investigators searched, the more reality itself seemed to quietly unravel around them. Years after Logan Schiendelman disappeared beside Interstate 5, investigators still cannot explain exactly what happened during those final chaotic hours. No confirmed suspects were arrested, no body was recovered. No evidence fully connected the strange witnesses, abandoned vehicle, and Logan himself into one clear narrative. Instead, the case remains suspended between competing theories, unanswered questions, and deeply unsettling possibilities even today. The first major theory suggests Logan became trapped inside a personal conflict involving somebody he knew and trusted. Supporters of this explanation point toward the emotional tension surrounding Logan's life before disappearing. He appeared increasingly withdrawn, emotionally unstable, and secretive during his final weeks. Combined with his strange driving patterns, some investigators believe Logan may have arranged a private meeting that eventually turned dangerous and irreversible. According to this theory, the unidentified men seen near Logan's Chrysler may not have been random strangers at all. They could have been acquaintances Logan voluntarily met before events spiraled beyond control. Some speculate an argument occurred inside or near the vehicle, eventually leading to violence, panic, or forced removal from the scene before police arrived. Yet without physical evidence, every interpretation remains painfully uncertain and incomplete. Supporters of the personal conflict theory also focus heavily on Logan's unusual emotional state before vanishing. His references to an epiphany, his growing isolation, and reports of anxiety suggest he may have been carrying secrets unknown even to family members. If Logan discovered information involving someone close to him, or became emotionally vulnerable around dangerous individuals, that vulnerability could have placed him directly in harm's path unexpectedly afterward. Another disturbing detail strengthens suspicions surrounding interpersonal conflict. Witnesses describe seeing Logan's vehicle repeatedly changing direction along Interstate 5 before the crash occurred. Those erratic movements appeared purposeful rather than random. Some investigators believe Logan may have been following another car, attempting to meet somebody secretly, or perhaps trying desperately to avoid confrontation. In that interpretation, the interstate itself became the setting for escalating fear before everything collapsed entirely. Yet another theory presents a far colder and more terrifying possibility. Perhaps Logan simply encountered the wrong person at the wrong moment. Interstate 5 stretches across enormous distances, connecting isolated highways, wooded exits, and transient populations moving anonymously through Washington state every day. If Logan crossed paths with a violent opportunist, the randomness of that encounter could explain why investigators never uncovered meaningful connections or obvious motives afterward whatsoever. The forests surrounding the crash site only deepened the terrifying mystery. Dense woods, hidden access roads, and poor visibility created an environment where someone could disappear within minutes unnoticed completely. Search teams later admitted the terrain was extremely difficult to navigate thoroughly. If Logan entered those woods injured or under coercion, discovering evidence may have been nearly impossible. Some followers of the case believe the unidentified man fleeing Logan's Chrysler may have been connected to an opportunistic crime unrelated to Logan personally. Perhaps Logan stopped to help strangers or encountered dangerous people unexpectedly during an emotionally vulnerable moment. If events escalated rapidly beside Interstate 5, panic and violence could explain the disturbing highway scene witnesses observed. That question still haunts everyone studying the mystery carefully today. Which explanation feels more believable? The hidden secrecy of someone Logan personally trusted, or the brutal randomness of a stranger appearing at exactly the wrong moment? Was the tragedy slowly building through emotional tension, or did everything collapse suddenly within only minutes beside Interstate 5 there? From a psychological perspective, Logan's disappearance contains details experts often associate with unplanned vanishings rather than intentional escape. People voluntarily abandoning their lives usually prepare financially and carry essential identification with them. Logan left behind his phone, wallet, cash, and personal belongings, suggesting confusion, coercion, emotional crisis, or sudden interruption instead of careful planning entirely. The mysterious epiphany Logan mentioned before disappearing may also provide important psychological insight into his emotional state. Individuals experiencing intense pressure sometimes describe sudden realizations involving fear, paranoia, identity, or dramatic personal change. Whether Logan discovered something dangerous or suffered emotional instability remains unknown, but the statement suggests his mind was overwhelmed shortly before everything unraveled permanently. If Logan truly interacted with unidentified men shortly before the crash, another disturbing psychological possibility emerges. People experiencing loneliness, emotional confusion, or personal instability sometimes place trust in dangerous individuals during vulnerable moments. Logan reportedly felt isolated and uncertain about his future, circumstances that may have made manipulation or emotional pressure far easier shortly before disappearing. The abandoned Chrysler created another deeply unsettling psychological image for investigators. Witnesses described the vehicle drifting strangely across highway lanes before crashing into a barrier, while no driver remained clearly visible. The scene appeared chaotic rather than carefully planned, suggesting panic, confusion, or sudden violence unfolding too quickly for anyone nearby to control completely afterward. From an Eastern philosophical perspective, Logan's story reflects the belief that every human action leaves consequences somewhere within fate itself. Even when truth remains hidden temporarily, many believe reality eventually exposes what darkness attempts concealing. Logan's family continues holding on to that hope, believing silence surrounding Interstate 5 may someday finally break beneath truth and justice. Western perspectives often focus instead on the frightening unpredictability hidden within human nature itself. Logan's disappearance demonstrates how rapidly ordinary life can collapse once fear, violence, or emotional instability enters the wrong moment unexpectedly. Perhaps the most terrifying possibility is not simply that Logan vanished, but that somebody responsible may still live normally today somewhere unnoticed. Today, Logan Schiendelman's disappearance remains painfully unresolved. His family continues living without answers, certainty, or even a final goodbye. Yet Logan's memory survives through aging missing posters, podcasts, online communities, and investigators refusing to abandon the case completely. Some mysteries are solved through evidence. Others survive only as echoes carried endlessly through silence and unanswered questions. Some crimes leave no screams, only questions, and some silences echo louder than any confession. Thank you for listening to Criminal Mindcast.